Okay, so we had them in the oven on 200 degrees for about 10-15 minutes, and they're pretty much ready to season. This is a little Levkoware, it actually came out really nice. So what I usually do, and again, these are welding gloves by the way, they're in sorry shape, but what odds. So when you're dealing with crevices, I find a toothbrush is the easiest way to do it. Gets right in there nicely. And you can fast forward to the end. I mean, this is kind of boring, but it's just showing you what I do, or what I tend to do. And then I tend to use just old rags and wipe it in really well. The more you put on, the more you got to take off. And this first layer is so important. And this is where a lot of people go wrong, and they don't understand what this first layer means. This first layer that you're putting on to your dry, freshly cleaned skillet, you want as thin as possible. You want it dry, dry, dry. So we're going to apply a little bit of oil, get into all the cracks, a little everything. You want to rub it in really, really well. Get it around the edge, all the way around the outside. And I'm not going to rip it the handle just yet. Okay. Doesn't look like much oil, does it? But you don't need much. You can see right now that the skillet is wet, and that's okay because we're going to dry it off really well. Now here's where the fun begins, because you really want to get this skillet as dry as possible. You don't want oil showing. It looks like we're wiping all the oil off, but I guarantee you there's a very, very thin layer left on this thing. And that's all you want, is it's the thinnest possible layer. Okay, all the way around the cracks. If you don't dry it off, you're going to wind up getting pooling. Some people put too much oil on it. And you'll see little black beads. What winds up happening, I believe, we're just going to put it back in the oven. And we're going to do this one. So first, a lot of people put too much oil on, and then you want to get broken black beading on the skillet, and you end up starting over. And that's unfortunate because they put too much oil on. Okay? So, I mean, I'm not applying a whole lot of oil here. And again, most of this is going to come off anyway. When you throw your pieces in a lye bath, as an example, some pieces take days to clean. Some pieces can take weeks to clean. Others will be clean within 6 or 8 hours. So you can always tell which pieces didn't have a proper base of seasoning. And this is your base of seasoning. If you screw this one up, you'll never have a really good seasoning. Put too much oil in, but again, the more you put on, the more you got to take off. I'm going to dry it out again. And again, it looks like I'm taking off most of all the oil, but I'm not. It's impossible to remove all the oil unless I put it back in and start scrubbing on it again. I hate these glass top stoves. And most of the oil is gone here. This is where it's handy having small fingers. Okay, so that's almost dry now. We're going to put it back in the oven. And again, it's just on 200 degrees. Get into all the cracks and crevices and everything else. And again, this is where our toothbrush comes in because it can get little cracks and crevices that my fingers can't. Give it a good buttering. Just a little bit of oil. Wipe it in really, really well. It's the same thing. I should have just did one piece for the sake of the video, but oh well. I love these old handles. I'll break the glass. And give it a good drying. So again, you can see that's pretty dry, and I'm going to wipe it off one more time just to make sure. But again, you're never going to get all the oil off of it, and that's what you want. You want as thin and dry as possible layer. Okay, so we're going to get a clean rag. Do one more drying, and then we're going to put it back in the oven. Ladies and gentlemen, that is what you want. When you season your first layer, you want it as dry as possible. There's still oil on that. There's a very, very thin layer, but that is exactly what you want. Typically, I'll do two layers in the oven and then do stovetop. I'm not so worried about seasoning like having a black bottom. What I care about is the cooking surface. So after 2 rounds in the oven, what I'll do is put it on the stovetop and actually give it a few more layers and let it burn. Okay. And doing it this way, it doesn't matter if it's upside down or whatever. Again, as dry can be. And I guarantee you'll see a difference in your seasoning. So, kick it up to 500 degrees. And we're going to let it cook for an hour. It's going to smoke. If you're not smoking, you're not seasoning. What you want to do is turn the oil basically into carbon. That's 500 degrees. I'm going to set the timer for probably an hour and a half. And that's pretty much it for this round. So again, just as a little recap, and a neat little trick, if you're going to get flash rust after you wash it off and dry it off, is going to and put it in the oven for 200 degrees. At that point, if you're going to get flash rust, it's going to happen right there. One little trick that I use, especially with waffle irons, if you've never cleaned a waffle iron, you're going to be in for a treat when the first time you do one. When I clean waffle irons, I have a pot of water ready to go and it's boiling. So I'll take the platters, I'll scrub them down, rinse them off, and throw them right into a pot of hot water, boiling water, and let them boil for 5 or 10 minutes. When you take them out, just shake them off and it automatically dries off. The platters are so hot at that point, You don't have to worry about drying them off. You don't worry about flash rust. But if you do get flash rust on a skillet, the fastest way to do it is to oil your skillet. Use a piece of stainless steel scrubber and just clean the whole thing with oil. And then wipe it off, a little bit more oil, clean it again. And when you realize or when you notice that the rust is going away, you just replace the rust and water and air with oil so it can't rust again. Then you start seasoning.